Good morning, afternoon, and maybe even evening. This is Pastor Charles Fraley, and I am your biggest fan, and I dearly love you all. And I have some encouragement for you. And it really starts out with two words, but God. And I want to tell you a story, but I want to tell you something that I know that some of you are wondering about, or you want to ask, but it's one of those questions or times when you ask somebody and it's a conversation, could be that's very awkward. And it could be an awkward conversation with a white man in this case, because if you look at my right side of my neck, it looks like I'm missing something, and I am. And about 30 some years ago, a little over 30 years ago, I had the opportunity to have some surgery in my neck. And the name of that was called radical neck dissection. And I had a problem with one of my glands, my salivary glands. And it turned out it was more than just a problem. And I had all sorts of opportunities to have all the things that someone with cancer has. And I had cancer in that particular area, and it had spread to certain areas. So after that surgery, I came back, talked with the doctor about, well, what's my prognosis? And that's when he sat me down and said, I need to talk to you about that. And he let me know that, well, probably my right arm, but God, would not work. I would not have a smile, but God. And um, I probably had about 9 months left in my life, but God. And wouldn't be able to have kids. Our daughter is 30 years old, and that's just something that the Lord decided on. And after that, I remember going home even and saying how, I said to the Lord, but God, I've got so much more to do. And I really had that backwards. He had a lot that he was going to do in me, as he will in you. Well, I went about 3 years, and 3 years later, I was, during all this time, I was having all these checkups and things during that time. It wasn't a whole lot of fun, but in about 3 years, I had a prognosis of lung, liver, and my my lymph nodes evidently had cancer in it, to what they said. And that was that was 2 weeks after I had asked this young lady to marry me. Her name at that time was Pat Vine. Her name today is Pat Fraley. And she heard that as well 2 weeks later, that that was going to happen. And it was not a good read from the doctors. Well, I had to go back in and have some more images made of my chest and other things. And I got a call the day before they were going to look over my liver. And it turned out it was a student that I'd had. He was now a surgeon, and he was going to do the procedure. And he said he had looked at it, and he said he thought that what they had picked up is really water, things that everybody has in their liver. And he said, well, maybe we'll scrap this, but I need you to come on in. So I went on in, and it was nothing. And the other two areas fell very soon. But God, again. And I have yet had, of course, I no longer have to go to any of the oncologists. They kicked me out about 10 years ago because I passed all the things that they thought was going to occur, because I was their youngest patient of this kind of type. And I want to encourage you, mainly because we're in a time where but God occurs daily for all of us. And but God is in the Word. You can find it in Genesis, all through it. And you can find it in First Corinthians and Romans. It's not something I made up. It's something he put in there for all of us. And I encourage you, when you pray, I pray aloud. I don't mess up other people's ability to contain themselves when I'm praying. I don't do that in the middle of big crowds or anything. But I encourage you during this time. There's a lot of but gods. I have had so many. I've had a very good friend that last Sunday, he should have been dead at that date. He had a stroke. He's fine. He used to be at Life Center. And I left out something. During that time, when I got my second diagnosis, where I really wasn't supposed to make it through that time, the men of Life Center got together and danced a healing dance around me. And then as I walked out that day, another man came to me and prayed over me and told me, there is no cancer in you. And certainly there was not, and there will never be any. Anyway, this is Pastor Charles Fraley, and I want you to continue to know, but God lives in us. And I love you all, and thank you for listening to me. But God, he will raise us all during this time, and we are the ones that will put our nation and nations into the great place that it's supposed to be in Christ Jesus. I love you all much. Thank you.